Hi there, I'm Dani, spiritualtherapist.com, and I'm really excited to play with a beautiful, beautiful British bird, and her name is Catherine Edwards. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Catherine Edwards. How are you, darling?
I'm great, thanks. I'm looking at your sunshine and your beautiful jungle, and I'm in the beautiful British countryside, but you can see by my fire going and all my fast asleep animals, cats on the mat, dogs on the sofa, dogs and things, that it's wet and windy in the UK, but we're used to that. We're used to it.
Definitely. And that's why I left.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't stand the great. There is something so amazing, though, about being in a British house with a fire going, snuggling a dog and hearing the wind battering at the windows outside, isn't there? Something quite lovely about that.
Yeah, and I'm so lucky when my office is in the garden. One day I'll take everyone on a tour, but I've got my guinea pig shed over there with their lovely heat lamp. And then I've got the ponies down in the stables there. So I am so lucky. If as a child, if you just said I'd be sitting there surrounded by all these animals, I thought I had, my every dream had come true.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And that's one of the things I've admired about you, Catherine, is your kind of holistic animal tendencies, the beautiful way that you can connect and communicate. So are all the animals rescue?
Yeah, all apart from one. I've got one lab who is now 16 and a half that my mum bred, called Star. She's absolutely amazing, the most beautiful little creature ever. And all the rest are, but as I kind of like to say, I think they rescue me rather than me rescuing them. But yes, they've all come from all over. I've got a recent one that's come, got 2 cats from Romania now, 2 dogs from Romania. The rest are from the UK, and they're all just amazing, absolutely amazing.
So not to, act like it's all so obvious and everybody knows, can you tell us why you were particularly drawn to rescue animals from Romania?
The thing is I rescue animals from all over, but I've always been one of these people, Dani, where the animals find me rather than I find them. So I've never once gone along to somewhere and chosen an animal. It's like I'll speak to the rescue home and they'll say, right, this is the one for you, sort of thing. So the reason I decided to choose from Romania is 4 years ago now. I don't know if you can see the picture of the black cat and the yellow lab on my wall there.
Yeah.
That was my beautiful Rocket, and he was a rescue lab from Ireland, the most beautiful dog you could ever have. And that's him with Pumpkin, one of my cats I've still got. And when Rocket passed over, and he really was, the most beautiful dog ever, I tried to get another rescue from the UK, and quite frankly, a lot of the rescue organisations, I've worked with animals, grown up with animals all my life, they were so awkward to deal with. And then at the same time, I had a friend who was doing a lot of volunteer work for the Romanians, and I didn't know much about it. And when I found out just how horrendous the animal rescue situation is over there, and a lot of reasons, without going into the long, complicated history, but a lot of people who had animals as pets were forced by the communist regime to chuck them out of their houses or kill them. So they ended up with a huge stray dog and cat problem. And when I found out that, I just thought, you know what, this makes perfect sense. I've built up the experience to deal with, animals that might have some special needs. So why not give some of them a home? And it's the best thing I've ever done, because it's not that I ever turned down British rescues. It's just that the situation here is so desperate, and a lot of so not all, because my mum's got one from there, as well as UK rescues. Some of them are fine, but some of them are so traumatized, they need people that have got the time and the experience to deal with that. And not everyone has. So it's almost like I could take those cases on, and then that frees up the people that haven't perhaps got that time or experience to take on the more straightforward cases, rescues. So for me, I see it as a win-win.
Wow, that's amazing. You touched on the country of Romania there, and there's a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot more attention coming. It's going to be very positive, I predict. But I want to share a very quick story for myself that I watched a movie years and years ago. And in this documentary, and it was about how abused the children are and the mentally unstable and harmed, beautiful children, and they were drugging them, and they were all naked in piles. It's like dead bodies. It was a real plague. And so a documentary was made, and in one of the scenes, there was this little being that they all shaved their heads, and this little girl, she was completely naked, and one of her legs had broken, but it was sticking up like this. Like it never been, and she was scuffling along on her bottom, and it's disturbed me so much. I made phone calls, I asked questions, I wrote letters, and it haunted me for years. And I really did try to find that child, and it stuck with me. And it was always like a bad pain, a bad pain, a bad pain. I didn't know what I was so attracted to this child of. Anyway, years later, I'm in California, and I'm sitting there reading my book Yogananda, autobiography of a yogi, and this man, very good looking, and this beautiful woman come and sit next to me, but they're reading the same books, and we all laugh, ha ha, look at us reading Yogananda, la la la. Anyway, the man and I became friends. He was already married, he was a good guy. He saw the same documentary. Wow. He was also Romanian, and he rescued that little girl, and her name is Helena, and they had to amputate her leg, but she grew up to get married and to have children. Isn't that amazing?
Wow. And this is the thing, I think it's like, you know, so many people say, why do you bother? You can't rescue everyone. But to that one animal, to that one child, you know, everyone is an individual and everyone deserves a chance. And, you know, you for me, it's about concentrating on what you can do and when you can't. When I was as the mum of 2 young children, I was in a different job, I was in a different place in my life, and I wouldn't have been able to take that on. And now I am. I'm delighted to, because I feel it's truly fulfilling my life purpose. And as I say, I very much do believe they rescue us, not the other way around, because they've taught me. I've been working with animals for years now, and been lucky enough to always grow up with animals, Dani, and every single animal teaches me something unique. It is just fantastic.
They are amazing, aren't they? I had horses once, and 4 I used to play polo. Don't think I'm a snobby cow. I'm not. It was an experience, and I'm out of it. And actually, I didn't like the horses banging their heads together. But you don't know what you don't know till you know it.
Exactly.
I had one particular horse. His name was Salvador, and he was a bit of a dimwit, but he was so beautiful, and he was very clumsy. He was always tripping. But I remember I'd drive to the stables, and then if I dared to attend to the other 3 horses, Salvador would pick up his bucket, drop it over the stable door, and then turn around and show me his bottom. And you know what it's like trying to push a horse around through a stable door. They're like, no. He's like, you can just have a look at that because I'm not playing with you. But they are incredible. So I'd love to know a bit about the horses that you currently have and why you have them and what their needs are and their kind of personalities.
Well, unfortunately, I'm down to 3 now, because just before Christmas, I lost one of my old boys, Billy. He was amazing, beautiful, gentle. He'd been passed around from pillar to post as a children's show jumping pony. And had taken the brunt of that, and I was lucky enough to have him in his retirement, and beautiful, beautiful, gentle soul. But the 2 I've got left are real characters. So I've got Romeo, who is just coming up to 23, and I got him wild off the New Forest. So when my children were babies, I lost my horse that I'd had for like 24 years, that I'd had since a child, and I lost her, and I was determined to get another one. But again, we were, my husband and I, very busy with work, 2 babies, you know, toddler and a baby, other animals and things. And so my husband had never been horsey, although he lets me get away with murder. And so I thought, oh, let's get pony for the children. You know, we live such beautiful countryside. I knew if I got a great big thing, it would be obvious. And I love ponies because they're so intelligent. And in the New Forest, unfortunately, a lot of them end up at the market. So I had always set myself on a New Forest pony. So I just contacted this amazing lady who, that there's the rules down there and only certain people are allowed to have ponies running loose. And I said, right, have you got one that needed a home? And she said, well, actually, I've got this lovely little bay, Bobbin, he was called then, I changed his name. Come down and see them. They're wild on the forest. So the first few times we went down to see them, she couldn't find the herd. And so I was, okay, this is a message from universe. Perhaps I'm meant to have this other grey Muttley. And I said, well, I'll just come down once more. And then there enough, surely the herd came to us and we found Bobbin. And he has just been brilliant, because any animal, like my dogs, like Come and my cats, that have lived wild, they're so in tune, Dani, with their intuition and their wild instincts. They really teach us so much more. And it really has made me realize how much animals bred in captivity, how much our human influence takes that out of them. So Romeo is amazing. And I talk about him a lot in my videos because he's hysterical, because he doesn't stand for any nonsense from me. You know, if I don't go to him in a good energy field, he'll say, no, back off you go, come back when you've sorted that mood out, you know. Or if I'm with him and I'm talking to someone on the phone, he's like, how rude. No. So Romeo is comical. He is absolutely brilliant. The most curious horse, can do anything with him. Absolutely brilliant. And then I've got little Charlie, who is a little rescue. He is about 32 now. He's a little Shetland.
Wow.
So intelligent. He came to me probably about, let's see, how old are my children? So probably about 10, 15 years ago. I lose all track of time, Dani. And he is just absolutely amazing. And he's my stress relief. He's like a little wise sage. Puts up with anything, escapes from everywhere. So the amount of angry calls I've had from neighbours because he's been which no roses. But he is incredible, and they're best friends, and the three of them were best friends, so it's taken them some adjusting to losing Billy. And I will get more, but I don't have a lot of my own land. I have to rent it, so I've got to consider that and everything, and also time to make sure that I can integrate a new one. So they're adorable. Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting, and even hearing and feeling the vibration of love that comes through you about how connected and how you honor and love and respect each one. And I know there are people out there that don't have a clue about animals, and they're the people that should never have an animal. Don't even entertain it. Don't even waste your beautiful time. But those of us that do really have compassion and love and feeling towards them, you know, there's again such an unintelligent uneducation in some people that they don't have cows, don't have souls. Oh my God, you muppet, be quiet. It just breaks my heart. And I'll tell you, my Salvador, my beautiful dimwit, my bright chestnut, he died. He actually, well, he tripped over. He was always tripping over. He tripped over. There are 100 polo ponies in one field, and Salvador and his little girlfriend, little pony, in another, because he couldn't be. He was getting bullied, you know, and he was a darling boy. Anyway, he trips over, and unfortunately, the decision to shoot him was made over, you know, repairing his leg, because it would cost too much, and I was out the country at the time. Anyway, so they shot him. And then this little girl, this little bay, little pony, she brayed and cried and whined for 3 weeks. And I shit you not, Catherine, that horse died on the very spot. She died of a broken heart on the same place where Salvador fell.
They do. Yeah. They absolutely do. The connections that animals form are so strong. They're just as strong, if not stronger, than humans. And it's just heartbreaking, because what a lot of, when I grew up, Dani, I grew up in the countryside surrounded by animals, and people had a lot of common sense. Now everyone's got a different upbringing and set of values in terms of, you know, how they feel it's acceptable to look after their animals, and you know, that's another debate. But people had a lot of common sense. Now, what's happened in the UK in the lockdown, like, everyone's got dogs, and most of these people have got no idea. They've gone for a cute little breed of dogs, all based on what they looked like, not on their personality or what their needs are. And they haven't got a clue how to socialize them, how to train them, how to keep them healthy, how to feed them. And now they're all going back to work, and they're like, oh, haven't got time for the dog anymore. And they're all ending up in rescues. And I just despair. I heard a podcast the other day, I can't remember who it was by, but, you know, we were talking about how Chernobyl and everything, and where there've been nuclear reaction things. As soon as humans get out of the way, nature regenerates brilliantly.
Yes,
absolutely beautifully. And the sad reality is modern humans, I'm not talking about the people that are still living in harmony with nature, but we really do fuck it all up so badly.
so badly. Yeah, so badly. That's so heartbreaking, isn't it? The thing about people going back to work now. Okay, bye, bitch.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. And there's people say, oh, my dog's fine on its own all day. Well, the only reason they've got to judge that is the fact it hasn't ripped their house to shreds. But actually, there was a study that was done, a really good documentary a few years back, where they actually put stress monitors on dogs, where all the owners were saying, oh, they're fine on their own all day. And all of them had hugely raised cortisol levels. And the poor owners were completely unaware of it. But dogs are pack animals. How would you like to be? We put humans in solitary confinement as a punishment. Why do we think it's acceptable to do it to our animals?
And that's a genius point. I'm sure you've seen these people who have cameras, these pet cams that they can check on their animals at home. And it's really, really hard for them. But sometimes they can pop up on screen, they can shout, the animal can hear them. But yeah, it's definitely something we've domesticated, dogs in particular. But I love the way dogs are like, love you, love you, love you, love you.
Yeah.
And cats are like, fuck off.
Exactly.
They're just such a different in their characteristics. I saw a meme yesterday and it was this cat that's just like that.
Yeah.
And it says, it has been proven that cats do understand human commands, but choose to ignore them.
It's so true. Anyone who's got cats and goes off and leaves them when they're on holiday knows that they're punished severely when they get back.
Oh yeah.
Dogs are like, I'm so happy to see you. I forgive you. I forgive you. And the cats are like, organic chicken for a month before I even think about it. Yeah.
Oh my God. So when you were a little girl, what were the influences around you in terms of connection to animals? How did you realize that you had this bond?
I was so lucky. Both my parents were born and bred in London during the war. And my mother was absolutely mad on animals as a child, but because she lived in London and everything, she couldn't really have many pets, and she was always getting into trouble with her mum by bringing back kittens and pretending they were strays and mice and letting them loose in the house and everything.
Oh God.
My mother was a massive animal lover from the start, and so was my father, but I don't think he realised quite as much until he met my mum. So they were always desperate. And then just before they had children, when they moved out of London, the first thing they did was get a cat. It was like, that's the first thing we're going to do is get some pets. So right from the word I was born, I've never, ever been without animals. So when I was a baby, we had a great big German Shepherd dog who was beautiful, and a Labrador. And, he grew up being my best friend. I mean, he was amazing. So, and my mother makes no secret of the fact that she has always preferred animals. She'd have been quite happy not having any children. My dad wanted children. She was always to be found in with the guinea pigs. So, I get it from my mum and my dad, and I'm very, very lucky because they were the type of person that, would help any animal and any person. So I'm very blessed to have grown up being surrounded by all sorts of waifs and strays. So it's just come naturally. When I was about 7, my mother rescued a whole load of battery chickens. And she was very like us. My parents would move to somewhere that was as good as possible for the animals. So the house was secondary. It was the environment for the animals. So as soon as she moved into the countryside, first thing she did was get some rescued chickens. And my childhood was ruled by these chickens because, one, chickens are incredibly good pets and come when you're called and sit on your lap. But the trauma, when they got there, they couldn't move. They were bored. Their legs weren't developed because they'd just been in battery hens. It was absolutely barbaric. And my mother nursed them back, and they lived so long. I mean, when you and I had a quick discussion off camera, and what people think is normal for a pet life isn't normal at all. People think 5 years for a guinea pig. No, they should live to at least 10. These chickens live to a very ripe old age. And to see them come back from the human abuse and just bring their joy back. But my life has always been ruled because, and in those days, it was always like you had to get back before dark, shut the chickens away so the foxes didn't get them.
Yes.
But we love that. We love that. And many a day, my dad was called back from a really important meeting at work because one of the cats had stuck up the tree. And then by the time that he got back, having driven an hour to rescue this cat, of course, the cat was quite happily got down the tree and he'd had his day ruined.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was very normal for me. So I was very, very lucky to grow up surrounded by animals. And I always wanted a horse, and my parents always wanted horses. So when I was 5, and I had a twin sister. My twin sister was the tallest in the class and I was the shortest. And I inherited the only one of my 2 sisters that was just mad about horses. And that's all I wanted to do was be with horses. And so my parents sort of said, oh, you can learn to ride. And my dad had never learned to ride. So my dad was 6'4". So we went along, me as I was really short for my age, 5-year-old, and my dad as a 6'4" adult, tall and thin. So it was like a comedy show. He
Oh.
was on the biggest horse in the stables, and I was on the little Shetland.
Ah.
Under his, and we learned to ride together, which was just fantastic.
That's so special, Catherine. What a beautiful, experience to have. That's so lovely. One of the things that we touched on earlier, and also, both are on the same page in terms of being gentle with the people that might see this broadcast, that are pet owners. But we wanted to bring to everyone's attention the gentle knowledge that when you are watching the news and you're being bombarded with negative vibratory resonance and this and that, and your own terror, your own adrenal stress and high fatigue from everything that you've been told is happening, and everyone's kind of really suffering, that the dogs in particular get extremely affected, and they love you so much. They love you unconditionally, guys. They try and take on any of that pain. What would you say to that subject, Catherine?
Well, first of all, I know it's really tricky because a lot of the time we do this through habit or change words, but I think if people get into the mindset that they're not a pet to be owned, they're a family member. So they're just an adopted child. In my family, no, normally better looking than the real children. People grown up like that. I don't mean it, Joe and Lois, but yeah. So I think when we think of them as a family member, not an ownership thing, because it does change the energy behind the way you look at it. And all I would say to people is your animals are trying to communicate to you all the time. And as you said, Dani, normally with it to dogs, they put your interest as the humans above their own. So half the time when they're suddenly asking to go out and you think it's the most annoying time because you're halfway through the film or the news, they're trying to get you away from that because they can feel what it's doing. And I think the best thing about sharing your life with, say, let's take a dog, is they really, if you take it seriously as having a dog as a member of your family, they really make you take a look at all your aspects of your life, and they get us back to the good old core values of good eating, good exercise, regular habits, getting away from the man-made things and getting out in nature, because anyone who's got a dog knows that every single walk you go on is like the first walk they've ever been on, the joy, the pure joy and exuberance that they exert. So for me, dogs are the perfect example of getting you into the present moment, grounding you, getting you in nature. And it's great because most people are happier to do something for their animal. They'll make time. If they didn't have a dog, they might not make time to go out for a walk each day, but because they've got a dog and they know how important it is, it gets them right back into being a healthy human as well.
That's such a beautiful truth. And, the people that the shut-ins, the people that shut themselves in, the ones who are, living alone and they're recluse, and, for them, the joy of having a dog, to give them purpose, to give them movement, because when we just atrophy, the muscular structure, just everything kind of shuts down and solidifies, and it's so sad. And I often think about that. I had a family member in particular, I told him for years, asked him, please, it'll be so good for you, best thing he ever did. He's like, oh my God, Dani, it was like the doors were shut, and then he gets his dog, it was a rescue, it's got 3 legs, and then so this family member, he's like, oh, there's life, there's sunshine, there's warmth, there's kindness, there's joy. My heart beats. I'm not going to be harmed every time I go out. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it's 24/7. Like, you don't just put them in a drawer at night, and it's a real commitment.
And same with cats, because cats need it too, but just a different type of attention and energy. And I think the thing is, anyone who's had children, we know anything worthwhile in life takes effort, it takes thing, but it's a good effort, it's rewarding, it's amazing. And that's exactly the same as sharing your life in animals. I think everything in life, you get out what you put in, and nothing is more true when it comes to the animals in the life. When you really try and see things through their eyes, and you really, anyone who's watching anything you and I do, they're the type of people, they're going to be doing their own research and things, but put as much information about researching what dogs need, what cats need, what budgies, what guinea pigs, what horses need, whatever the animal you're sharing your life with, And so much weight gets lifted off your shoulder, because then you're not second guessing things, and you're just constantly asking questions and improving, asking questions and improving, learning by your mistakes, like we do with everything in life, because animals are incredibly forgiving of our mistakes. And so long as we're making the effort, they're happy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you remember any kind of first spiritual connection, spiritual awareness, awakenings as a child, and knowing that you have this ability to communicate to animals in the way that you do?
Yeah, I mean, when I was very young, we had the most amazing German Shepherd dog called Rocky, and he was huge, and loads of our friends were scared of him because he was enormous, and he was such a gentle giant. And, you know, sometimes dogs like German Shepherds get a bad reputation, but they're just amazing dogs if they're not messed up by the humans. And my twin sister and I used to share a room, and every night Rocky would come in and say goodnight to us, and he was always the first one to know that there was something wrong. And as a child, you know, everyone can communicate with animals. You ask any child, they know exactly what their animals are thinking. It's only when grown-ups tell them don't be silly they can't talk to you. So I always had this amazing connection with Rocky, and always knew that I could completely rely on him to look after us. He always knew what we were feeling, what every member of the family was feeling. He always knew who to go and comfort, and he was just like the perfect gentleman in your life. So I'd always grown up talking to Rocky, and he had a very close relationship with my parents as well. So even though, like now, I might sort of say to my mum, you know, I communicate with animals, and she sort of says, so don't be silly, you know, you can't really communicate with animals. She's been doing it all her life. She just calls it something different. And I think we can get very hung up on labels and having to do something properly, but we all communicate in different ways. I think the important thing to remember is communication is two-way. So they're communicating with you and you're communicating back. It's very different to telling. And that's where, so I also remember one of my first rabbits, Smokey, I, you know, knew exactly then he was ill. So I think as a child, it was just completely natural, like it is with most children. And then as you go out into society and get taught certain things by, in a human perspective, are acceptable, I think you shut down. I shut down like other people did, because I just couldn't understand why other people couldn't see. So I was 14 when I was really lucky enough to have my first horse, which I had. I've only ever had her and then the ones I've got now, because I've been lucky enough that they've all lasted for ages. I think Idris has just jumped up the top there.
I'm sorry. Did you say Idris?
Idris the cat.
As in Idris Elba, that beautiful.
Yes, now we didn't name him. He came with that name, and it suits him so much because Idris is a god amongst all cats. He owns the whole neighborhood. He's the happiest animal I've ever had. He's so intelligent. My daughter and I actually think he's an alien because he just appears everywhere, follows us on dog walk. But yeah, that's who he was named after. And he's one of the few animals we haven't changed the name because it suits him so well. And he's incredible. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. We all bow down to Idris and do whatever, run around after him like anything, because he has that effect. But his book brings so much joy. All the neighbours, even the neighbours, Dani, that really didn't like, there's a lovely lady up the road and she's like 90 something, and she really is always not like cats at all. And he lets himself into her house, jumps up on the work surface when he's eating, and her son, who lives with him, is like, my mum would never let another cat do this. But because it's Idris, he charms.
Oh my God, he's the cock of the walk.
He is. He jumps on the pony's back. I've got videos on my on the pony's back. I mean, he does whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And yeah, we just, world according to Idris, we call it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so beautiful. One of the areas that you're, you know, excellent and excel in is the animals with the special needs. How would you describe that give a synopsis of what does that mean, you know, to you and to people that have never even imagined animals have special needs?
I think the thing is that most animals, like, I mean, you deal with your work, Dani, with trauma in humans and releasing trauma in humans, and most animals carry the same trauma, certainly any animal that's been in a human environment. And And like anything, everyone's definition of what trauma is different. Everyone's got a different tolerance, a different definition. So, you know, nowadays in the woke community, you know, bullying, mental health and everything, it's gone to one extreme. And perhaps when you and I grew up, it was the opposite extreme. You know, we've gone from not talking about these things at all to it's the center of everyone's life sort of thing. I mean, I'm horrified when I see my friends who've got teenage children, what they're being taught at school, and just no resilience at all. But animals that have been in contact with humans have all had some sort of trauma. Now, whether you call it trauma, you think that's an over exaggeration, but take a dog in the wild. We think it's acceptable that a dog gets taken away from its mother and sold at 8 weeks old. That's what's the standard practices. Same with the kitten. Some are younger, which is even worse. But in the wild, a dog would never leave its mother at 8 weeks old. It would be part of that family pack, and it would gradually be a gradual process. It wouldn't be a ripped away process. And some animals can cope with that really well, like some humans have higher resilience levels and some can't. But a lot of animals have been through a lot of trauma. So let's take a horse, like a polo horse. And I do trigger a lot of people with this because everyone's boundaries, but a polo horse is, you know, they're passed around for pillar to post. They've normally got tack on that doesn't fit them. They're yanked in the mouth and in a high adrenaline thing. So you and I know that fear and excitement set off the same sort of physiological reactions in a body. So a horse in the wild doesn't gallop and canter a lot. It only gallops and canters a little bit for play and when it's fighting from a predator. So if you're routinely encouraging a horse to be in that motion, it's in a fear response. Well, so a lot of what we do were, you know, that's just one example. Look at the tack we put on horses. You know, you don't see a Native American riding around with the tack that we do. They don't tie their mouth shut. They don't put metal spurs on. You know, they don't pull their horse into an outline. I mean, if I took you to an aerobics class and decided to tie your body into a certain position because that's what I, as a different species, had decided you should look like when you're doing that activity, I don't think you'd be very happy with me. You know, so it is, most people over the last 2 years have experienced what it's like to have some of their liberties taken away from them. So I've grown up in the UK, I've done quite a bit of traveling, but I've grown up at a time where I've had so many freedoms to do what I want, Dani. I could go to university, I could go off traveling, I could choose what jobs I want to have. I've been in such a fortunate time of growing up in my generation with the opportunities that have been given to me. And then suddenly to not be able to visit my daughter who was in America, to not be able to visit sick relatives that were in hospital, to feel what it's like to have other people impose conditions on you that are against all your instincts. Now, if you think about it, that's what we do to animals in a human environment all the time, with a lot of love in our hearts. So most people that have got animals in their life love them to bits, they're the pride in life. But are they really looking at the restrictions? So if you've got a dog, you're deciding what food it eats, whether it's vaccinated, whether you're putting poisonous chemicals on it, whether you're taking it to groomer, who it interacts with, when it's left at home, whether it's locked in a crate to sleep, all these things that we do from the best intentions. I think the last 2 years have taught us what it's like to have other people make decisions for us. And it's not that great, is it?
Do you know, that is a really beautifully well put, well thought out analogy of having people understand how the animals actually feel. Thank you for that. Brilliant. And you're right. Anyway, we've all gone through terrible trauma, and those of us that have lost people during the last 2 years that were forbidden to go into the hospitals, for example, and be with them, there will be a lot of reckoning for the people that made those decisions, because they have created a level of cruelty and harm and anxiety, PTSD in people that will reverberate for some time. There's a lot of blessings in this time. I really feel that, know that, but there's also a lot of real horror, real kind of concentration camp, which is, from my mind, this is part of the global plan. We're
Yeah.
all in one giant concentration camps. There are different levels. That one's a bit nicer over there. That one over there, oh my God, they're never coming out. There's so many things. And the attack in the minds of everyone, the animals and the people, in this last couple of years in particular, is just so harrowing. And the way that you just put that together, that analogy there, that's so true and will land really well in people, you know, and thank you for that. The children, or the child in us, is at the most restrictive and has been at the most restrictive. So you're right. So the adults, like, I'm a ball busting bird. I'm out there in the world. I'm going to fucking Costa Rica. I'm going to buy a house on a mountain, and, you know, I'm going to work myself to death to buy it. But all these different things. And suddenly these arse-wipes on my planet, your planet, our planet, have gone, no. And then boom.
Yeah.
And my own internal rage and being appalled and disgusted and being even more of a big mouth, even more pushing back, even more outspoken. So it didn't do one thing to discipline me, because if it serves a purpose where everybody is lovingly coerced but they agree with that coercion, and they you know, they learn together, and it's all for the good of the people, that's completely different. You know, but not the bullshittery that we've been plagued into. And again, back to your analogy, you put it in the point from the tiny child that is restrained and restricted in every single way without choice. And so we've grown up being restricted by all the idiots that raised us, guardians, and, you know, there are idiots everywhere. Come on, I mean, you know, I've been a complete idiot myself, and then still am sometimes. But, you know, people who've had influence on my life, let's just talk about that so I don't upset anybody, because come on, you're going to find something to be upset with. I can't believe it, honestly. The other day I was saying something about coloured or skin, and some woman's all offended. I'm like, for God's sake, the woman I interviewed only wants to be called melanated. That's her choice. I'm not going to say to her, I'm sorry, if you're coming on my channel, you can't say that. No, you do you, darling. I'm proud to have you up. And then so I just delete. But it staggers me that the thing that somebody will get triggered, the neural synapses gets triggered. Oh, she said this. Sit down and be quiet. Have a glass of milk. No, please don't, unless it's almond. But yes, oh my God, right? Oh my God, it's like. But this is mental warfare. This is psychological, mental, emotional warfare, all wrapped up in different layers and layers that people are sitting there and they're going off like bombs, time bombs, getting triggered, attack. And then, you know, the shitheads at the top that run the planet, they couldn't care less. They want as many people in the world to suicide, to leave, to attack, to cause as much grief as possible, which obviously impacts our children, which obviously impacts, you know, our animals. And you know, at this time, like I said to you, you know, I look at people. I saw you on the Mark Atwood show. I'm like, I like that girl. I want to play with her. And she's British, and she loves animals, and she's spiritual, and she's connected, and she's got a big gob, and she drinks wine, and she speaks her mind, right?
All of the above, yeah.
Yeah, but we're warriors, you know, we're love warriors, you know, we're like, no way, Jose, we're not having that. And the other thing inside of that, Catherine, and I will come to a close in a second because I've been speaking for more than 2 minutes, which actually is quite normal. But there are so many people that, for example, they'll fall in love with Catherine Edwards. Catherine Edwards says this, and this, and she's teaching, and she's, you know, bringing people on, and everyone's saying, and then someone else comes on, and Catherine Edwards says something slightly different. She herself is growing too during this time, and she's found something out about somebody maybe, or she's not happy about this procedure. She had no idea, and then all of a sudden, the person's like, you know, it happened to me. I did a broadcast with this beautiful man. He's called the Tattooed Spirit. He's a brilliant tarot reader, very grounded, very technical. And we decided to share our favorite books because people keep saying, what should I read? What program should I do? I'm like, let's just share our books, Jess. So we get on and we share books. And one of the books I shared is a massive tome by a man called Manly P. Hall. And Manly P. Hall was a Canadian, and by the age of 26, he'd written this book. And it is a covering of every single icon, every symbol, every legend, every angel, demon, daemon, everything that we've ever heard about and every religion is in this book. When he wrote that book, the Masons, the Freemasons, were so staggered at the brilliance of this man, they ordained him in at the 33rd degree. So in Masonry, for those that don't know, there are certain degrees. When you're a Freemason, you start with the whatever. Most people don't get past 5. Only a handful on the planet get to the 33rd degree. And then I'm not even going to go into what happens at that point. But Manly P. Hall was given and ordained a decree of the 33rd degree Mason, which is massive. So I mentioned that because I know that. And somebody just had to write, the Masons, you know, and then it's like, for goodness sake, there's a literal response that some people have that won't allow them to own a body of information, because they've heard one thing here, it's gone into a neural pathway, it's created itself, it's a program, it gets triggered, and then they shut down. It's like, no, missus, open your mind.
Exactly.
If you get triggered, look at that. Why are you triggered? Why are you triggered? So what would you say about that big blurb I just
it's something I want to invite you back and have a whole talk about this, because it's something I've been on. There's so many things I've trained my mind on over my life, so many things. When you know better, you do better. And that is that. And you know, people say to me, you do this, yeah, I did think that, and at the time I was doing the best with the limited knowledge I have. Now I know differently. What the hell is the point of going through a life journey if you don't learn on that journey? How boring would our lives be if we knew everything right from the start? What's the point? What would be the point in any of it? So what I think, I've had so many people do this to me, and I must say this week, for some reason, I've reached the end of my tether. Well, I just want to write fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Comment. Because I'm like, you can view and listen to something with an open mind to think, I want to challenge myself to look outside my box, step outside my box, or you can look at something with a view to criticize. So some of my favorite stuff, I shared something by Sagaru the other day on my YouTube. Oh my God, I got my, don't you know he's evil? Don't you know he's in with the dark cult? Don't you know this? Well, you don't know, you've never met him. And my saying is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just like we as individuals go through different stages of our journey, so does everyone else. And at some stages, they might be influenced by good people. At some stage, they might not be influenced. I've just listened to half of a really good interview, but I haven't listened to it all, by Robbie Williams and Chris Troll. I want to go and listen to the rest of it. It's a repeat from one they did a year ago. And Robbie Williams is saying exactly what my friend Bryce and I have been talking about. We've got so obsessed with the story of what we think is happening. We've just substituted, a lot of us, and I know I'm using a we, and I know it doesn't apply to everyone that's listening. So if the cap fits, wear it. If this applies to you, take it on board. If it doesn't, don't put the cap on. Simple.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
and we're so obsessed by this person's evil, this person's this. You don't know, you haven't met them. If you there's so many people that say things about me that are completely not true. They've never met me, they've no idea, or they might have been true about the 20-year-old me, but I'm a long way off 20 now. And I've enjoyed every single mistake I've made, more or less. A few I haven't, but most of them I've enjoyed the journey. So I think it's so important that people stop looking. Wayne Dyer, who's one of my favorites, said something. It's like most people can find over 100 things an hour to be offended about. So are you looking at life with what can offend you, or are you looking at life through love and learning?
Yeah, that's simple. That's simple. You know, the whole religion thing and the whole kind of following this and following that. I myself went down that. I know I sit in front of a guru or a swami, and there were points that were so beautiful and so amazing. And you know, and I've have an ability. I'm a clairvoyant medium, so I can look right through. I can scan behind, in front, inside. Always had that ability. Can listen, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairvoyance, and you know, I think it's really important for us to try on different aspects of this beautiful human codex that we're all part of, you know, and in in doing that, we'll feel and find things that resonate on a cellular level. But I also believe that, you know, for example, when I was sitting in front of this Swami years ago in LA, of course, in Los Angeles, Hollywood, not. This man, he would say the most extraordinary things. And I would sit there thinking, you are the biggest Billy bullshitter, but you've got this really loving, charismatic way about you. And I don't think he was a fiddler of any kind on other humans, because, you know, some of these people abuse that leadership status. And then one day I'm looking at him and I thought to myself, you know, you're going to have to wind this whole deal up soon, because you can't keep going, because that train's got to stop. And you know what he did? It was so funny to me, and bless him too. I do feel a bit sorry for him. He ended up saying to people, on this day and whenever, I will turn into light and you will never see me again. And on that day, he turned up on camera wearing a suit and a tie. It's like, hello, my name's David. I shit you not, that happened. And that, oh my God, that's so funny. Things like that happen all the time, don't they? But again, yeah, we got to like read books and listen to people and try them on. And sometimes when we look at someone for the first time, or we hear their voice, we're instantly irritated and we don't know why. Yeah. And it is so many different reasons why. And you go, I just can't put my finger on it. There's something about them, but it's multifaceted. It could be there's something really not okay with that person, or maybe that person's going to be the biggest blessing to you and help you look at something inside of yourself that you're frightened to look at. But they're a reminder. Maybe somebody in a past life expression reminds you in that body. That's nothing to do with that person, but you're still running and your cellular memories are still holding, because everything that's ever happened in any lifetime has a cellular memory that's stored in the body, this beautiful Akashic record keeping library that we're walking around in and that's getting triggered the whole time. The most embarrassing one ever. Oh my God, Catherine, I was living in California and I went into a store called Vons. It's like a Tesco's, and I'm in there and I'm looking at the carrots. I'm holding a carrot, right? A big one, a big donger. So I prefer to buy a big one and just a whole bag. Anyway, I don't know why I'm sharing that. So
you have something to say about that. Yeah.
Oh my God. So I'm holding this big donger. And then I look at the door and this man's coming in and I went, oh my God. And I threw the donger down and I ran to the door and I threw my arms around him. But right before I almost made physical contact, I realized I've never seen you in my life. I've never met you in my life. And his wife and children are alongside and his wife's like, who the fuck is that? And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the man was just like, he was so like bewildered and like, but it was a past life. I recognized this man as somebody I'd loved in whatever regard, I don't know. But yeah, and I'm very spontaneous there, as you know, like taking you outside, looking at all the rocks, showing you my ATV, showing you the well.
I want to know how that man explained it to his wife.
I don't know. I don't know. Here's the worst one. I was married years ago, and my ex-husband is bald. You know, he looks like Dobby from Harry Potter. He really does. Bless him. Anyway, so we were in Harrods. You know, Harrods, the department store. For you that don't know, Harrods is like, it's the poshest department store in the whole of Great Britain. It's got many, many layers of many, many treasures. It's a real, real joy. I've always loved going there, regardless of what dark, satanic. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. It's part of the British tapestry, and it was a place that a lot of people have enjoyed going. And so my husband and I were in there, and he's like, right, I want to look around, meet me here in an hour. I'm like, okay, great. And I'd been asking for an upgrade on my little tiny engagement ring because it was too small. I've got big hands, girl. I've got big piano playing hands. And I said to him, you know, I really, really love you and all that. But, you know, I would like, and I was running my own space agency. I didn't need his stuff. Not that he had me. I was the one with the, you know, with the wherewithal at the time. Anyway, cut a long story short, I catch sight of him leaning over a glass cabinet in Harrods, looking at rings. I'm like, oh my God. Now, we were very physical in every way, me and him. We'd have arse slapping competitions. I would wet my hands and slap his bare ass and whack him with a pillow. And I've always been that person. So I see him bending over this glass cabinet and I do a running rush and I slap his ass and he bangs his head. It's a bit violent. And then this 80-year-old man turns around and looks at me. He's like, oh, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Security was called. I'm like, I thought it was my husband's bottom. Like, the more I said, the worse it was. But
that's the type of thing I would do.
God. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we suffer with foot in mouth syndrome, or we just
you always know if I'm talking about you will be standing right behind me. I guarantee it. It just happens all the time. So I've learned the hard way that that's the lesson, not to talk about people, because they will be standing behind you, hearing everything you're saying. So yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just think I think people take things too seriously. I know life is serious, but if you can't have fun about it, you know, I grew up with Benny Hill and Kenny Everett. And if in doubt, watch a Carry On film. Yes, there's a lot of shit that happens in life and people go through tough things, but you're meant to enjoy the journey. So if you can bring some humor into it, it's so important, isn't it, Dani? Because at the moment, I think whatever side of the fence and whatever fence you're sitting on and everything, it's really serious and really dire. And a lot of people are substituting the BBC or MSN for YouTube, and it's the same pattern of behavior and different things. And I think when you get out and your main focus is living your life, then everything else is not going to affect you to the degree that, you know, where it's going to start bringing you down and getting into this fear, the fear on both sides, you know, fear, whilst when you're out walking a dog, you're not going to be in a fear state.
Yeah, see, even when you said that, because our cellular memories in this lifetime too, like my body took a natural breath in, the reminder, the being out in nature, the connecting with Mother Earth, Pachamama Gaia. It's so beautiful. And you're right, you know, I don't like labels at all. And when we were chatting off camera earlier, you know, I see this like, here's all the Trumpers over here. Here's all the return of the, you know, the Jesus Christ Savior. Trump is going to do this and do that. And if you're triggered, that's on you, not me. I didn't say one negative thing or positive. I'm just saying that's a corner, a quadrant. And over here, we've got all the alien abductees and contactees, and that's all great and beautiful. Over here, we have the secret space program, the military. And it's like, why? We're all one, are we not? Are we not all one? And then when one kind of Godhead, one person who's been gathering a following, follow me, I am the truth, the way and the light. And because we're programmed, I'm not mocking Christianity, I don't really care to, it's not that important to me, but we have to start thinking for ourselves, as you're saying, you know, and when we look at all of these different quadrants and groups of people, surely we can see there's still the same patterns, as you were saying, running through all that bullshittery. So let's say a Godhead is you know, shown out as not quite what we may have thought, for whatever reason. And then the disappointment in the very sweet people. There are some very sweet, humble people still, and they are very childlike. And I have great compassion for them. And a lot of people don't. I do. I do. I mean, don't be a victim or a martyr. Don't stand in front of me and go, but I can feel you, your trueness, your sweetness, your innocence. But those are the people, they get dropped. Where's so-and-so? What's happened? I'm worried. You know, I need that person. I need that fix. I need that. And, you know, and surely by now we're at the stage where people that watch these kinds of broadcasts can say to themselves, I don't like this bit, I like that bit, I'm going to look that up. Oh, I disagree with that. Oh, I'm triggered. That's all right. And then we can only internalize inside, connecting to soul, connecting to mind, connecting to body. Oh my God, that's the easiest route to our own healing. And as we're healing ourselves, any animals that we're affecting with our trauma and our drama, they're going to get a secondary healing too. What were your thoughts growing up about God and Christ and, you know, structure and discipline?
I didn't grow up in a religious family at all. We sometimes went to church on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and we went for weddings and funerals, and that was it. I can remember really infuriating my religious studies teachers at school because, yes, I could memorize the Bible, but I didn't believe any of it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have a connection with my God, which is Mother Nature. You know, so my spirituality is Mother Nature, whatever you want to call that. So I didn't have any sort of religious, and in fact, almost to the extent where, yes, at school we were taught it, but it literally went in one ear, out the other. I had the type of memory at school where I could remember anything and get 100% in an exam. And then if it wasn't important to me, I'd forget it the next day. And the things that are important to me, I've remembered for life. So it's been one of the most interesting things, actually, because to my family, not that my family watch anything that I do, but if occasionally they do, to have a little giggle about me, one of the most triggering things I can do to my family is talk about God. But for me, it is hysterical because it would like send this ripple of like ridicule through. But actually, they've all got a real connection with Mother Nature, all of them. So it's the word that's triggering them. And sometimes we use words just because we can't be bothered to spend half an hour explaining something. So I have felt, since I've been on this journey for the last 2 years, more of a connection to source than I've ever been aware of. I've always believed in reincarnation and things like that. But as I say, I'm not attached to any religion. And I think that whether it's history, whether it's religious books, they've all been tampered with. So I look at the message behind it rather than take anything as truth. So yeah, very, very little, no indoctrination in that respect at all.
Thank goodness. You know, and it gives you such a free mind and a free thinking aspect. And then, like you say, you found your own way to what you're calling source, which is beautiful, because obviously we are soul bonded with something. We didn't just pop out of a, you know, out of an explosion. And that's always made me laugh hard too, like the ridiculous. Hysterical.
Although I must say, I was really gutted when I found out that we didn't evolve from monkeys, because I've always wanted to be a monkey and wanted a monkey's tail. And now I'm thinking, oh, we probably didn't. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. I'd like to be very closely related to a monkey, but I'll have to deal with that in counselling.
Oh my God. Well, there are some people that say that the lineage, the, you know, the Homo sapien, the range from the, you know, the ape to the caveman, etc., that, you know, Darwinism theory that we were given, actually that's the evolution of the Yeti, the Bigfoot, the abominable snowman, the Sasquatch, who I have come to understand is the most beautiful, the most advanced human. And those, of course, that have never heard that concept will laugh and titter because they've got no other mental reference to draw from. And that's what we do. Such is the human psychology, the way that we are you know, kind of set up, programmed.
Ridicule, aren't we, Dani? I mean, all my scientific friends, who I love to bits, by the way. So I'm a biologist and I'm still in contact with a lot of my biology friends, and they are lovely, lovely people. But the ridicule, it's the first point of defense is ridicule. And I just think it's the lowest form of intellect, because if you're not open to exploring, what do you think science is if it's not questioning, proving, and every theory then gets, you know, you find out more information, and so you drop that or adapt it and everything. So I just don't get this ridicule. I don't get that people aren't even able to have a good old-fashioned debate about something. It's like, I've learned that from somewhere really important and I will not deviate. Well, that's not science.
That's brilliant. So what made you become a biologist? Why did you pick that subject?
I just love everything about life, whether it's plant, whether it's animals, whether it's the soil. I mean, my fascination over the last 10 years has really been in the soil and the microbiome of the soil and the communication networks of plants and how that translates into everything that's with ours. I can't stop being, you see, I've got 2 cats now. They're enjoying our conversation. The dogs are too. But yeah, I'm one of these weird people. There's been a lot over the last, again, few years of ridicule education. I had a really good experience through education. I had parents that didn't have the opportunities of the education that I did. And I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had. And I didn't feel restricted by my education, because I was always that rude child that the teachers moved to the back of the class because I kept asking too many questions. So I didn't have a bad experience. Having said that, I can see a lot of my friends did, because when I was at school, they hadn't diagnosed dyslexia, for example, so you were counted as thick, and that was acceptable. So there was a lot of people who were at the same school as me who had a really bad experience. I was lucky enough to have a really good experience. So I was the first person in my family to ever go to university. And I just was really grateful for that opportunity. And I loved it. I love learning. There's not a year that I've been alive that I haven't, but of course, self-study, you can choose what you study. So I get a little bit triggered by people that say, because my belief system and my life experience in this current bodysuit is that you get given an opportunity and you choose whether you're going to take it as a positive or negative. So I was very lucky to be given the opportunity to go to university at a time when a lot of people didn't, if they didn't have a lot of money and things. And therefore I've met the most brilliant people there. I had the most brilliant lectures. I never felt I had to agree with them. I never felt that, because that was my mindset that I went into it with. So I didn't feel brainwashed in any shape or form. So, you know, whether I was just lucky or whether I went into it with a different attitude or a combination of the two, I don't know. But I take that, I listen to loads of people. I get so much criticism for a lot of the people I talk to, because everyone assumes that I'm going to agree with everything that's being said. There's a difference. If I invite a guest onto my show, I want to hear their opinion, and I'm not going to interrupt and disagree with everything, because what makes me think I'm any more right than they are? I want to know, because I'm looking to expand my consciousness. It doesn't need I need to agree. There's been things that I haven't agreed with, and then 2 years later I thought, oh, I see what they mean now. I just didn't get it before. Now I get it. It might take me years to get to that stage, and sometimes I never agree with them. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be rude to someone I've invited on to talk to, because I've invited them to hear them express themselves, not me project myself on them.
Yeah, you are so right. That's such a clever point as well. You know, there are people that, you know, need a fix. They might say, really, really, they need their fix of Catherine every day. Catherine, Catherine, Catherine. And then they watch you and in therapy, we call it an adrenal payoff. So they'll watch Catherine, they've heard her dulcet tones, they've raised the light frequency in their cellular structure because they've decided to create this program where Catherine has to be part of the day. And then all of a sudden, Catherine's not there. It throws them into panic, and then it creates a negative response. Then the next time they see Catherine, they're pissed at you. Yeah. Don't really know why. It's not conscious, it's unconscious. But because of all the thought fuckery they had themselves, all that internalizing, all that need for that drug, that adrenal high, that adrenal payoff, they've created something internally. This is happening to people watching, broadcasts like this every day, all day, always has, and the TV too. I started watching Ozarks. There was a show called Ozarks in the States last year. Oh my God, it was so good. And my beautiful fiance was, late fiance was alive then. We binge watched it, and it was great. I'm glad we did, because it was that kind of show where you think, oh shit, what's going to happen next? And then I realized, oh my God, I was getting anxiety in the day, couldn't wait for him to get his stuff done so we could just, and so I recognize that. And this reminds me of just what I'm sharing now, because humans, we are the easiest beings to program. We're easier than your computer, your phone. Easy. Humans, drop a program in, pump it up, adrenalize it. Yeah, let's go, baby, let's go. So as you said, the things that people look at, they say this to you, they say that to you. It's a lack of intelligence to say to someone, it's very brave to have different people on your channel. It's very brave to sit and discuss. It really is. And for those people that want to sit and, they're eating their donuts and whatever it is they're doing, and they're criticizing, and they're not being kind of productive in any way, but they're attacking Catherine Edwards there. Start your own channel, boo. Exactly. Come on, let's see you do it. Get out there. You've got something to say it. No one's stopping you. Go ahead, right?
Yeah, and I see a YouTube channel as the same way. I know people say you're putting yourself out there, but I see a YouTube channel as the same as inviting someone into my house. Like, the great thing is about YouTube channel, you have to choose to go on and watch something. It's not forced down your throat. Now, when you and I grew up, we didn't have many programs on TV. So there was one choice if you wanted to watch the news, for example. Now people have got loads of choice. So what I'm saying is choose wisely. Why torture yourself to listen to someone that you don't like. It's just awful. I'm like, have you got nothing better to be doing? There's loads of people I might watch and sort of think, I don't like it, so I just switch it off. It's that simple. Switch it off. And I think it's a modern day problem of people that have too much time on their hands. You know, I'm quite frankly, if we were still out having to forage our own food, cook, when I grew up, it was a full-time job for a mother looking after a family, because we didn't have big supermarkets. This is how old I am. You know, you went to the greengrocers, you went to the butchers, you went to the hardware store. You didn't have dishwashers. You know, most people didn't have tumble dryers. You did everything manual. The children walked everywhere if you were lucky enough to live near school and things. And I know it's not, I'm not saying that a lot of modern day things aren't an advantage, but we're so spoiled now, a lot of us. Anyone who's sitting here watching this YouTube channel, I think we're all spoiled, myself included. You know, it's me sitting there in my office in the garden with my lovely animals and the ponies down there. I am spoiled as you know, as anyone. But I'm going to make the most of it. I'm not going to have these things in my life and not appreciate it. I live in one of the richest areas in the UK. It's beautiful where we live. We're an hour commute to London. A lot of people are lucky enough to not have to work. One of the partners. It's not, you know, most families now, both partners have to work just to afford a roof over their head and some decent food. Where I live, there are a lot of well-off people, and they're bloody miserable. I'm like, if we've manifested this life herself, I put my hand up. I have got a wonderful life, and I am really grateful for it. And I know a lot of people are in a lot of different things, but how does it help them if I'm miserable? At least if I've got these blessings in my life, I can be grateful for them.
And also, you know, you've worked for everything you've got.
I
That's
really
what most
have.
people, right, most people do. And you don't have to justify or apologize or explain. If somebody has that aggression towards you, like, you know, I've had people attack me my whole life for being blonde, for being blue-eyed, for this, for that. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be some moaning Myrtle out there, some miserable Mike, you know, that has to have a go, because there's something so sad inside that person, angry, rageful, dysfunctional, from whatever. And some of the wealth, like playing polo, and even myself, I didn't go into that story, but you know, I've been around a lot of extremely wealthy people in my entire lifetime. And the polo playing arena, they call it the king of sports. Some of the wealthiest people I ever met, who are gazillionaires, are the most miserable, unintelligent, emotionally dysfunctional. And I'm like, Jesus, I am so glad I don't have your life. Yes, that's a judgment, and I'm really good with that. One of the wealthiest men I ever met, I was keeping my horse at his stables at one point, and he invited me and my former husband to come and have an egg sandwich with a few other people. And I was sitting watching the way that the people around the table were kissing his ass. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to be in this gang. I'm not impressed. I was sitting there thinking, because I'm so feisty and rebellious, everyone's kind to each other. You know, I don't care who you are, you be respectful, you be nice. You invite someone into your house, don't abuse that position that you've put yourself in. Don't be bragging about, but they're all like social climbing, how can I? Then he told us the story of who he be. And when he was a little boy, his uncle had an accountant company, very successful in Knightsbridge, London, Knightsbridge being one of the most affluent parts of London, apparently. So his uncle hired him, this man, let's call him Mark. So Mark goes along as a young boy, and he's learning how to be an accountant, and he's very proud of himself and dressing up in a suit every day. But something happened, and Mark gets fired. So Mark is so angry and so revengeful that it took him years, but he ended up buying his uncle's company from under him. And then on the first day of ownership, sat in the boardroom, called his uncle in and fired his uncle. Now, there is a saying in life, and the saying is, look at the mark of the man. The mark of the man, they will show you who they are. And as this man, Mark, is sitting there sharing this horrendous, to my mind, story, and I thought, wow, you little shit, You were angry. You wanted to hurt your uncle. You were probably some doofus that made mistakes as a young boy. Your arrogance, because you weren't corrected or disciplined as a child in a way that you probably should have been, has carried through. And now you have all this affluence. And his intention was to shame and humiliate his uncle. Now, these are a Middle Eastern connected, and you don't do that.
No.
Their culture, there is no public shaming. It is a very taboo thing. And this was like 20 years ago, I'm talking, that this happened. But, again, for everyone, look at people with an open heart. Look at people through your heart. Look at your physical response to said person, your reaction to what we call, response to stimuli. How does it make you feel? Why are you triggered? Why are you triggered? And then, as Catherine says, then make up your own mind. Don't attack. Why would you attack? Because the thing is as well, Catherine, good reminder for everyone, without exception, when we attack, that's our energy that we are putting out there, our electromagnetic energy. That energy is going to go out, it's going to carry around, it's going to amplify, it's going to come back to you because it's your energy, your signature frequency. By the time it comes back to you, because you put negative out, you're going to get tenfold negative back. Same if you send love. You send love out, that's going to come back. We're not doing it knowing that there's going to be a response like that, but we need to have that awareness more than ever. So again, to your point, people attack you, they criticize you. You don't have to sit there and say you're spoiled. You're not spoiled. You bloody deserve everything you have, just like I did and have in my life. We don't have to answer to people because you and I put ourselves, out there and try and bring love and, information. And again, thank you, Catherine, for being so real and saying that you 2 years ago may have thought one thing and now your perception and perspective is altered. It takes a brave person to sit there on a channel as big as yours to say that. And that's a really wonderful, responsible teacher-student, student-teacher thing to say.
Do you know, I just love getting older, Dani. It's like in our culture, we've got a taboo about women getting older in particular. And I just love it because the thing is, you learn so much on the journey. I wouldn't be having this conversation 20 years ago. And I can recognize that behavior in others because I've been there myself. And so now I know that when, people told me years ago about gratitude, Dani, and I was like, yeah, like this. But when you live your life with gratitude, everything changes. And so again, when the student's ready, the teacher will come. And that's what I found. I've been given messages in the past and I haven't taken them on board because I just haven't been ready. I just haven't been there. And now, and so I just sit there and I think, I just love getting older because now you can see all the different lessons coming together. And I know there'll be loads more and I can laugh about it. I can laugh about conversations when friends that have been far more spiritually advanced than I have been talking about these things and I poo-pooed it all. And then 5 years later, I thought, oh, I get it now. And, and that's why I think having fun along the journey, I think the British sense of humour is pretty damn good. And I think we need to maintain that. And in a world that's got so serious and so black and white thinking, let's make it grey again, or green or blue.
Yeah, and joyful and flowerful and colourful and everything in between. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, my darling, I knew that. I actually forgot whose channel we were on.
Yes, me too. It's such fun just having this chat. I've really enjoyed it, Dani. I hope we can do it again.
Definitely, without question. Yeah, Catherine Edwards, you are a joy to behold and to listen to. And I just want to thank you personally for everything you've done and you do, and for the information that you bring and the people that you bring on your show. Like I told you, I saw you with Mark Atwood, who I love. I love that man. Mark, I love you. Let's get married. Just kidding. I do. I love him.
Isn't he? He's so great. Yeah, he's so funny. Yeah.
And again, British humor. He's another Brit for those that don't know, and a lot of people do know who Mark Atwood is. And he released another of his beautiful poems the other day, made a video, and he's such a funny man. And again, for those of you looking out there for more uplifting, kind of information to help you grow in this time that we're in, I would definitely recommend Mark Atwood's channel. And while we're actually on this subject of supporting, helping, and because people say to me, have you heard of this person, that person? I'm like, no, like I work. No, I'm a therapist. I'm a spiritual reader. I see people every day, like this on Zoom, and that's what I do. And then I'm obviously doing my own little channel, and I don't sit watching. I don't know everybody. So, but in that regard, Catherine, could you recommend who you feel might be other good resources in terms of channels for people to maybe have a look at the moment?
Well, I love my friend Bryce at Esoteric Atlanta. I think she's absolutely fantastic, and different generation, just fantastic view on life, just so much self-study. I also really love my friends in Australia, David Cohen, who's got a small YouTube channel, but he's just fantastic and a really calm, grounded energy. And Medina, who's got a Rise Humanity in Australia as well. So I would say for me, those three really stand out to me because they just bring something very different and very real, and like you, they're all doing their own thing. They're not protecting, they're very authentic, very honest. What you see is what you get, but they're really evolving on this journey. So those are the three I'd like to give the shout out to. And I really apologize if there's someone I haven't mentioned, but just off the top of the cuff, those three.
No, this is about, again, just in the moment, being spontaneous, just sharing, and everyone can take time to be offended. There's too many people to mention.
And our new friend, Turn the Page with Janine, who I just love.
Oh my God, I love her too. We're going to play again. That girl, I've told you, she's modern day television. She's what television will be. A beautiful, normal, natural woman who's a kick in the pants, who's on the fly, who's got this real calmness about her that people say yes to because they love her. I did one little show with her recently, me and my friend Elena Danan, and we're both going on separately to play with Janine. I think I'm on with her next week. Yeah, she's amazing. I really
and there's loads of others. I mean, you all know sort of the others, but those ones are particular for me because these people where the more you get to know them, the more that they just shine so bright. And I think that I just feel so lucky to be having these conversations with people. It's fantastic. And I just got halfway through your Sasha Stone one, which is bloody brilliant. I'm going to go listen to the whole of that. That is phenomenal. I mean, he is amazing. So
yeah, Sasha Stone is definitely a very special being, and a lot of people get triggered because he's so outspoken. I mean, you're never going to contain a spirit like his, and it was a joy. I put that one out yesterday, but I really wanted to kind of connect to the softer, the child, because all of us, where who we be at this moment based on the beginning of life, really that helps to build this foundation of who we end up, deciding we're going to be, what roles we're going to play. And I've never heard much information about his childhood, his influences, his mom, and he brings all that to the table, and it was beautiful. So thank you for mentioning, Sasha. We're going to play again. That man, the people that have been on YouTube for 5 minutes, myself included, although I do have a body of work from television in actual real telly in London. I mean, whatever, who cares? It was a long time ago. But for the people that sit and they're, some people call them content creators, they're trying to build a following, and it's obvious who they are. You can just look. There's an empty vessel and a, whatever. But Sasha has been on the front lines and campaigning for humanity for over 20 years. And there's such a body of work and a legacy. He's been around the world. He's sat with kings, queens, presidents, this arsehole and this wealthy bastard. And he's brought them all into some kind of alignment. Not only that, but he's had exposure to the most healing, holistic, up-to-date, leading-edge technology. The people are emailing me all the time, Dani, when are the med beds coming? When are the med beds coming? Hold on, because Sasha Stone is bringing information. I'm sure he's already had interviews with, including mine, but he and I are going to get on hopefully next week, and we're just going to dump and drop drop, all of that too. You know, so again, there's weighing up, weighing down, people who've been out there for a long time, people like David Cohen, who you mentioned too. I just want to say, David Cohen is a very popular name around the world. So how else would we find him? What's his, David, is it Cohen, Australia?
No, Cowan. And
oh, Cowan.
Cowan, yeah, sorry, my accent. And I've done a few interviews with him, well, quite a lot. We've been friends for a long while, and he's just amazing. And Medina, who's on my channel as well, as she's got Arise Humanity, and Bryce Esoteric Atlanta. Most people that know me would know her because we do lots of stuff together. But I'm just loving, because these are all people that I feel I'm really growing and expanding with. And you know those people. I mean, there's loads of others. I'm not going to mention every single person I've been on with, because a lot of people, but they're sort of, some of them more smaller to medium, and are just people that I know. You can tell the people that you want to have all the off-camera discussions with more than you do on camera.
Oh, yeah.
The top of the three of my list. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Can people come to you for sessions? Are you in that field right now?
At the moment, my private sessions. So I've got my CatherineEdwards.life and my Catherine Edwards Academy. The links are below all my videos. The Academy has got my training courses on. The Catherine Edwards Life, I do consults, but at the moment it's shut off. I will be opening them back up again in a couple of weeks, but I'm just so booked out. I had to shut off the booking for a bit, because I've started my book as well, which has only been 8 years of saying I'm starting. So I just had to drop something. So I've got a lot of bookings in, and then in a couple of weeks' time. So what I would say to people is sign up to my newsletter on CatherineEdwards.life. We do not bombard people. But that's where I can share things that I can't share on this channel. A lot of that I'm so into. I've been a holistic therapist for years, so the natural remedies are my real speciality, and the healing modalities of energy healing, natural substances, etc. So but a lot of that I can't put on this channel, unfortunately. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Catherine Edwards. You are a joy to the world, a joy to the planet, and we love and adore you. And I can't wait for us to play again, mate.
Nor can I. It's been wonderful. Thank you, anyone who's listened to us for this long. You just lots of love, Dani. Take care.
You too, my darling. You too.